My men's size, I think, is 6. I'm pretty sure.
Well, mine's 6. Yours is 7.
And then mine's 7.
Women's soccer is a growing sport, but this wasn't always the case. It was only in 2007 that the Women's FIFA World Cup offered prize money. Back then, champions Germany won a grand total of $1 million. Compare this to the men's tournament, where winning first place there got you $24 million. Since then, there's been a push for equal pay between male and female players. In 2017, Norway reached a landmark agreement for pay parity between the men and women's teams. Off the back of their World Cup win, the US women's team has also battled for equal pay and has their trial date scheduled for May 2020. In Australia, players in the National Women's League, or W League, will now be paid the same minimum wage as their male counterparts. At the local level, there are signs that the tide is shifting too.
I would say most people are pretty surprised when I say I play soccer. They always say, oh, didn't know you play soccer, or, that's interesting.
The fact that we can almost get 3 women's teams together is very surprising to them just at one club, because most clubs, to have 3 men's teams is like an achievement.
The club this year changed a few things around as well to cater for the girls, because there was never sanitary bins in the toilets and stuff like that.
But finding well-fitting footwear is still an issue. Most women will convert their shoe size and shop for boots in the men's or even children's section if their feet are small enough, as there are hardly any soccer boots designed for women's feet. According to Adidas, women will need to go down one size, whereas Nike recommends going down a size and a half to convert their shoe size into men's. Charlotte and Phoebe McLaren have played soccer for more than 10 years. In women's shoes, Charlotte wears an 8, while older sister Phoebe wears a 9.
Our dad buys our boots because we struggle to find ones that fit. When Dad finds one that fits us, he just gets us all the same ones because it's so rare.
You'd probably allow twice as much time as if you're going maybe for a boy. You find that some of the sizing's not quite right. Often they'll have a little bit more narrow feet than what a boy would. So sometimes your range of products that you can look at and purchase is not as much as what a boy's or male boot would be.
I've always bought kids' size boots just because men's sizes don't fit, and there's not that many women's size boots. My main issue is that because they're designed for kids, they don't fit my feet properly in some parts, like some parts are tighter than others. After a game on Sunday, my feet on Monday are incredibly sore on the sides and kind of near my ankle.
Megan Grope has been playing indoor soccer for 4 years. In women's shoes, she usually wears an 8 or 9, which, according to Nike's conversion chart, equates to a men's size 6 or 7.
At the moment I wear men's size 10 because it's not that my feet are that big, they're just very wide and no boots fit me really. They're way too long.
Women's feet and men's feet in general are quite different in their shape and their size. Women's feet are a lot thinner and narrower, especially at the heel. And so when looking at men's feet, they'll typically have a thicker foot, which when you look at the shapes of shoes makes for a very different fit on the foot.
Whether too wide or too narrow, wearing ill-fitting boots causes complications. So the girls often take measures into their own hands.
I often get bad rubbing on my bunion sort of area, and in an outdoor season I had to tape foam to my feet because my shoes just hurt so much.
Definitely blisters, especially around your toes, because if you wear sizes that are too small, they do hurt your toenails, and if you wear sizes that are too big, then your toes are rubbing against the end. So.
If your foot can move around in the shoe, you're going to get friction over those different areas, which creates blisters. You'll also get the foot hitting the end of the shoe, which is where you get black toenails.
Aisha Imran manages 2 women's indoor soccer teams, and for the last 8 years has played competitive futsal, which is a type of indoor soccer, in Victoria's State League.
Some of the shoes I've owned in the past have been too narrow for me, so that's caused a lot of issues in my toes blistering up. The heel of the shoes are a bit too wide also when I've got a narrow heel. I do have to use orthotic insoles to just support and fill out that space.
Not only are men and women's feet shaped differently, our bodies are too, which leads to differences in how we run and move.
There's also biomechanical and anatomical differences. Men and their hips are sort of over the top of their knees and then over the top of their ankles, whereas with women their hips are wider, then their knees generally will come in closer, so that typically when women land for jumps and all those sorts of things, their knees are closer together and their ankles are actually wider apart. Women will typically have more of a knocked knee appearance as well, which creates more movement at the ankle. And so if the shoe is too big or too wide, the foot can move within the shoe. And so that just creates a whole nother level of instability that the body has to then try and deal with.
Because of wider hips, women are predisposed to more instability at their joints, so having well-fitting shoes becomes even more important. Instability at the knee and ankle could be one reason why Aeria suffered a severe sprain and has to tape her ankles for support before every game.
So I've torn a few ligaments on my right ankle a few years ago, so I was on crutches for a few weeks. But I went back playing after about 2 weeks off, when it should have been about 4 months off. Started using an ankle brace, started taping up before every game. I go through a 5-metre roll, maybe every 3 games. And that's a lot of money, I suppose, that goes into that, yeah.
Having knees under more force could be one reason why anterior cruciate ligament, or ACL injuries, are more common among females who play soccer and AFLW. A 2013 study of high school athletes found a higher rate of ACL injuries among girls playing soccer than for boys. Closer to home, the ABC reported that AFLW players were 9 times more likely to sustain an ACL injury than their male counterparts.
Women don't get injured more than men, there's just a difference in the types of injuries that they get. So typically women have a lot higher risk of experiencing anterior knee pain. They also have problems with their ITB more likely than men. There is a higher risk of injuries to the knee, especially sort of the ACL, which there's lots of factors to play into that. So stability is important for women, probably more so than men, just because they have more movement at their joints due to a range of reasons, from hormonal, but also just their mechanics.
Improving the way boots fit is one way to improve stability for women in the field. But footwear manufacturers tend to focus more on the external features of a shoe, like what the boot is made of and where the studs are gonna go, rather than what's going on inside the shoe and how this affects the foot.
It's very hard to navigate as a female when you walk into a footwear store, because there's not a lot of information about, which is better for women or which section is a women's section.
Like if there was women's boots designed specifically for women to take into account the way that their bodies move, that would be awesome. I don't think we're going to get there anytime soon with football boots, because there's just not that range behind them, and there's just not as many people playing football as there is running. So I've been personally really kind of pushing for women to get into a women's football boot. There's not a big range or anything like that, but I think, we need to get behind the guys that are doing something to make a difference for women's football and soccer as well.
I guess personally, I want to be able to go into a store and have just as many options as men do. We play the same sport, so I think, we should have access to that.
I think while the football boots and the fit of it are really important, I think that what's probably a bigger issue with women's sport and women's AFL and soccer in general is that we probably haven't been as accustomed to that sport from a young age.
When I first started, it was pretty tough because in my team, it was a mixed team, but it was mostly boys, and boys got a lot of the game time. Boys are given more game time when they're still developing skills, then the girls do get disadvantaged later when they're not as skillful because they didn't get those grassroots skills.
I definitely didn't play footy like my brothers did. I played netball or did dancing, and so now that footy for girls is so big, we just probably don't have the same level of body awareness and how to take a tackle and how to land when we've been bumped. And so we really need to realise the level of fitness and level of strength that we need to have.
Developing women's sport encompasses so many things: more strength and conditioning to prevent injuries, increased game time to develop skills, and better pay so that professional players can actually spend their time improving their game instead of working a day job. And while having footwear designed and manufactured for women's feet might seem trivial in comparison, for women, it represents something much bigger. It shows them, yes, we take women's football seriously, and we want to develop the sport, which is surely a step in the right direction. Mojo News contacted Nike and Adidas for comment, but neither company responded.